Hello, this is going to be the full moon reading. I'm going to do cards. I have a lot of messages and different things that I want to talk about, so I'm going to push that off until I do a different video that turns into more of like a no tools reading where I'm just sharing stuff. But just to get into the full moon, I needed to, as I've shared before, around the times of full moons, I do a lot of collective transmuting for the collective, for the people around me. And I just have to kind of be in that. Like, I probably won't record on actual full moons. I think I have in the past, but it's not really the best thing for me to do. So, I don't know how other people experience this moon, but for me, it was full of these, especially with all the retrogrades going on right now, just like strange experiences that are like crossed wires and things just being odd. Like, well, on Tuesday night, I only got like an hour of sleep. So that's another reason why I didn't record yesterday, because I had to work. And I took a midday nap. I took a midday nap, but it was technically a work day. But I know when I can't function if I'm too under-rested, so I have to take small naps. If it comes down to that, which kind of harkens back to polyphasic sleep cycles and the Uberman technique, and I mentioned that long ago, and just being able to have a different kind of sleep schedule. Like, my unconventionality around how I want to live my life goes down to when and how I'm going to be able to sleep, even just because it suits my lifestyle. So while some people, not that I think getting 1 hour of sleep is a good thing, it was not preferable, it was not my chosen path, but it happened. Sometimes it does. Anybody who has a funny relationship to sleep or has, struggled with insomnia will know what it's like. But yesterday I was like napping, and a little bit TMI, but it's my, it is what it is. I wanted to nap. I like to be naked in my house sometimes, whatever. Napping, ordered some food for the middle of the day, and it was delivery, and I always lock my front door, but it was unlocked for some reason. I think because I just had my friend from out of town staying with me, and so when the delivery driver came, he actually opened up my door and came in, and I'm naked. And the instructions say leave it on the doorstep. And I could hear the door open, and my dog is obviously a guard dog. He went off and was all barking, and I can hear this person like walk back out. And so I go down there and I open the door, and it's like quite an older gentleman, especially as far as DoorDash delivery. Like, no judgment. I do delivery for DoorDash if I need to make some extra money. So it's not a judgment thing. I'm always open to make extra money, and it's a great way to do it. I love to drive and listen to music. So anyway, I just feel like he didn't really know how it worked, because he seemed very confused, and he was like, "Are you Mariah?" And I'm like reaching out my hand because he's holding my Chipotle bowl and wearing a robe. But like, that was odd. That just, so things like that, like, kind of astounding. Like, you don't go into another person's home. My fault for leaving my door open, but and then, oh, I don't know. I was late. I'm not usually late. I was late somewhere. A drive that usually takes me between 25 and 35 minutes took me 2 hours. And the amount, like, just the license plates, the synchronicities throughout yesterday. I have a lot to say about the climate of the energy going forward. And so the reading that I'm going to do, we're going to start with the Psychic Tarot. We're just going to do some cards, but yeah, there's a bunch of different little clarifications that I wanted to make. And let me just say this, because it's relevant. Okay, so I was talking about how I can, like, just to, like, I always have these moments too where I end up like feeling like I'm making fun of myself from a previous video, because I was like, I just control time and I set my intention and then I'm never late and blah, blah, blah. Obviously it's not a bulletproof process. Life happens, but I can mitigate, with my belief and connection to like the passage of time, mitigate the instances of kind of like having little mishaps like that, the inconveniences of life, because I don't see myself as a victim of them. I see myself as a participant in them. So if I'm like, this is a non-issue, even if it's an issue, It's not because I'm like gaslighting myself or bypassing, it's because that's how I'm handling it. So, hang on. Okay, I had to take a phone call. Okay, so I was talking about the whole time thing, right? Like, I did set my intention. I got in the car. I didn't understand there was a country pop star in town, so I was in a traffic situation. I get in the car, I look at the clock, I'm like, okay, I will arrive at this time, no later. I basically moved not even a quarter of a mile, and all that time passed. And I was like, okay, it's not gonna happen. But then you just kind of continue to make the adjustments. But it was funny because like no one likes to be stuck in traffic, right? All these vanity plates were going by. One of them just said, "Your dad." Like, that's funny. I love vanity plates. I take pictures of them. I have a lot of pictures of vanity plates because I want to, I have all these ideas that I'll probably never implement. Sometimes I will share them here so that if somebody likes it, they can go do it. I think we should have a, I don't know, a co-op of all the creative ideas that we don't have enough time to put into action. But basically, imagine a gallery and there's small, like 5x7 or 4x6 photographs cropped in of these vanity plates. They're all separately framed and matted in like little white 1-inch frames. But it's pictures of vanity plates, and it would actually be a poem because I've taken so many photos of so many words and phrases via license plates that you could read each photograph and it would be a poem. But obviously, like the other one was like, it just said, "I'm Olive." And it was like this bougie grandmother in like a BMW. And every time I drove past her, I was like, "Hey, Olive," like losing my mind in traffic. But the whole time thing, right? I also wanted to clarify something that I said the other day around like, I was telling a story about going to a stranger's bonfire on a beach in Hawaii, just different things around like feeling spiritually protected. Kind of a weird thing to share, but I was in a mode of reminiscing because I was thinking about the alien stuff. It brought me back to Hawaii, and like one of my little visuals that I use in my mind, sorting through memories. And it's funny, I don't like this one. I don't have it tattooed. I should probably get it tattooed, but it's like, I didn't choose this, right? It's just the way my memory and my mind works. They're like little treasure chunks. And if I want to go to like Hawaii 2015, like a scrapbook, right? I can go open it, but then there's other memories there. That's why I ended up telling that story, because that's where my mind was wandering. But the treasure chunks, I find them to be like tacky. It's just funny because you'd be like, if you don't like it, change it. It's in your mind. I'm like, nope. It just is what it is. But anyway, there's like these little cartoon treasure chunks that have different memories from different times and stuff. Almost like a tacky temporary tattoo that a kid would get at the dentist office as a prize for enduring a teeth cleaning or something, you know what I mean? So I've never gotten it tattooed because it doesn't fit in, but I should just get it really big right here, treasure trunk. Okay, so the point of me talking about this is talking about the fact that I said stuff around like, I am spiritually protected and I know that now, so these things wouldn't happen to me. And I'm not saying like if I was alone on a desolate street and there was an intimidating, threatening character, I'm not implying that by nature of my spiritual protection, I would intimidate them or I'm like equipped to fight or whatever. It's just you do need to keep your wits about you and be smart out in public because you're not always 100% safe. You never know what's around you and what could happen and who's there, right? I mean, I do, and I feel into the energy of all situations naturally, so that I am always protected, and I'm not only applying spiritual protection or employing spiritual protection when I feel unsafe. It's a non-negotiable for my existence. I simply wouldn't be able to function if I didn't do it. I know that because I didn't used to be able to function because I didn't do it. You live and you learn. Okay, so that's not what I'm saying. I'm not saying my energy, and I said that thing about like, I can tend to be a stronger or more dominant energy in the space if there's different, because it's about awareness, and I'm pretty aware of how those things work. And so what I mean is that I just simply wouldn't be in that situation. Dark alley, intimidating figure, whatever. I wouldn't be in that situation. I've evolved as myself into a version of myself that is not at the wrong place at the wrong time. I used to be a lot. So I have a lot of stories like that one from Hawaii, great time. I've made a lot of decisions and I wasn't spiritually protected. I was at an earlier time of my life. I was engaging in like a lot of karmic stuff and trying to figure out who I was, right? So I have been at the wrong place, at the wrong time, so many times. But that's been alchemized into my affirmations around like, I'm always at the right place at the right time. I'm lucky, you know. You kind of go to the other side of it and start believing in that for yourself. So I'm sharing that because it's important to kind of affirm that you are at the right place at the right time. Anything could happen, but we typically tend to take that into a negative direction and say and be fearful around it. But anything could happen to the point where you are pleasantly surprised, expectations exceeded. I just missed my finger completely. And it's a different attitude that keeps the situation buoyant. Keep it afloat, the optimism. What else with that? So there was a Hawaiian story about spiritual protection. Yeah. Spiritual protection as a non-negotiable so that you can function, even if you're not at a place spiritually where you're like, okay, God, please look out for me. Like, and you don't really believe, just try it. I promise you, say it anyway. Say it out loud. Be like, I am protected. I don't give any energy consent to leech off of me without my permission. I hereby rescind any accidental consent I may have given to my energy being leached off of me by anything. And I am going as deep as like the blind accepting of terms and conditions. Yeah, I think I will table this for a different video. I am going to talk about Black Mirror. As a TV show. And I also had a really good rant the other day, but I was walking on the sidewalk and there was a lot of really important messages in it. Because the thing about it is that I've said before, when I do cards and I'm in channel and I'm working with my guides and I'm like doing all the things and trying to link things together and create a reading for collective energy, then I need to either rewatch that or it just kind of runs through me and integrates into my mind so that I will end up recording, they end up being voice memos later on in the day or the week after the reading where my life, like my human self, is talking about how it's affecting my life. So that's not really channeling. It's just that I talked about movement being kind of a walking meditation, movement being a time where I get into a more meditative state. So I might post it, but it's just such a bad audio quality. What I thought I would do is play it back, listen to it, extract certain quotes that are like valuable, because I actually talked about quantum timelines and how to manifest the right probability and how that can function on a collective level right now, and how I think there's some really problematic stuff being seeded into the collective subconscious, which has an effect on collective manifestation because a lot of what is manifested comes from the subconscious, which is why a lot of people feel like they do not believe or understand how they could be in control of their reality, because they're like, well, if I am, then I wouldn't pick any of this. I've been clear. I want this, this, and this. Why is it like this? Because you haven't cleared out or merged with, and you can't merge with the sub or the unconscious ever, right? It remains sub or unconscious, but there's this awareness around the shadow self and stuff. All right. 3 cards for this full moon. I don't know where this reading is going to take us. I've tabled a couple other things, as I've said. I did wake up. I had this strange dream right as I was waking up. I was almost awake, but I was still dreaming. This is, I don't know, like 3 hours ago this morning. I was driving around some really, really steep hairpin turns, and I come around a corner and there's a truck in front of me, and he is swerving out of the way because there was this huge black bear carcass and it had been dismembered. So like the shoulders and the head were like off, rolling through the street all bloody, and the midsection, it was just this black bear roadkill situation that he had narrowly swerved to avoid, or he had just blown through this bear and like shredded it into pieces. It was not a great situation, especially coming around with such little notice. It was a blind corner. And so me and my vehicle, this is a dream. Me and my vehicle, I kind of managed to swerve around these bear pieces, but then the person in back of me, there was a car that I saw in my rear view that wasn't able to do that because of how I had to slow down and swerve. And so their car was tipped up on its side and hit the guardrail. So little dream that I had waking up today. And I mean, bear totem energy is about strength. It's about courage. It's about boldness. It's about protection. Spirit bear, like there's a lot of, ancestry and different cultural, right, like Native American totems or whatever it may be, bears. And so to have it dismembered, a symbol of power, and for me too, I'm not one for, well, what's interesting is that the other day I was thinking about roadkill because that recording that I just mentioned where I was walking on the sidewalk, another reason why I didn't post it is because I get distracted when I'm talking. When I was distracted talking, I didn't notice that my dog had found a dead raccoon. He was very excited about that. So in the middle of the recording, I go like, I'm telling him off and trying to get him away from the coon. And then we proceed on our walk, but it's a disruption to the audio. But anyway, like the life force energy, or what people call this, the spirit, the soul of a human, it can be measured like it's like the quanta. Quantum, I mean, this word in all its applications, all it means is like a unit of something, like the quanta. So the quanta of a animal or any living being, if they die in a way that's abrupt or unnatural, like an accident or suicide or roadkill, animals getting struck by cars, sometimes the soul isn't able to exit the physical vessel in the way that it would if a death occurred naturally. And so I spend time, it's one of my duties to the public, to nature, to the universe, helping stuck animal souls exit their physical bodies, because sometimes they don't get to, and then they rot on the side of the road. And I'm just, I guess, perceptive enough to tell when, I guess, like I think and I get the understanding that the soul needs to be released. And it doesn't have to do with how like fresh the kill is. It can be a mostly deteriorated thing and it still kind of has that presence. So it's a transmuting that, it's helping that energy go to the light, really. So that came into my mind around the bear, because had that happened to me in my real life, that would have also been part of my thought process. In addition to, I don't know, sheer horror, I would be thinking about releasing the bear's quanta into the higher realms so that it wouldn't be trapped. We don't want trapped, stuck, or stagnant energy in our own body, in the world, for other people. We don't want like things, unrealized or buried, which is the precise reason why I'm going to pursue some hypnotic regression sessions to uncover memories that I have with missing time and kind of figure out what the deal ski is with those, even though it's scaring me a lot to think about that process. We don't want, it's what I always say about the Three of Swords card, grief and heartbreak. To acknowledge something is to integrate it, because it's still going to be there whether or not you do. And the dream for me has to do with some kind of dismemberment of our own courage. And I think it could be a symbol. I mean, it is my own dream, and I did not understand when I experienced that dream earlier today. I wasn't feeling like it's a collective message, but I do want to share it because of what I talked about with like little inconveniences and weirdness around this full moon, like things just being different than they usually are in a potentially inconvenient way. You're not alone if that's been your experience recently. So let's see what we have here. Choose wisely. Heartache and loss. I just mentioned the Three of Swords. Disruption. So funny. This card always comes out. Choose wisely is a number 7 card. I love this visual because I love hands. And I love how this visual is showing like in every moment you have basically infinite options. You could do anything. Any moment of the day, you could do anything. I'm going to go right into my other deck, and because I'm a little conflicted, I kind of want to just pour everything into this reading, but I need to spend some time walking in silence today, and I'm going to go do that. I'm going to go move my body and breathe the fresh air that is approximately 10 degrees cooler than it has been, because we're starting to get those cool mornings. And it still heats up throughout the day, but those cool mornings, that's such an amazing time to be outside and ground into the energy. So we're just going to clarify what's come up so far with my normal cards The Ethereal Visions Illuminated Tarot by Matt Hughes. Okay, so, and then I'll do another reading and I'll really get into all of like these themes that I've been sifting through for the past few days. The other thing that I'm getting intuitively right off of this pairing, disruption and loss, is around the fact that when it's not necessarily the best time to make moves, we may feel ready to make them. And almost like a child, we're like, but I'm finally something. I have this clarity. But then I saw a subway, like the doors close and it pulls away. The elements don't align so that when your readiness clicks into gear within yourself, the universe has rotated just a little bit slightly so that it doesn't quite make sense for you to do what it is that you prepared to do because you thought things were a certain way. That's what I'm getting off of this, which is strange, but it lends itself to the advice of understanding that when you feel and become the most ready, and then you want to, there's this potential energy that's desiring to be released through that, the next step in some cases can be around patience and moderation and discipline and self-control. And I am going to talk more. This is what I'm going to offload into the other video that will be posted probably shortly after this. The next 2 videos after this, I'll be touching on this. I will start to share more about how the physical sensations that I get in my body are a direct reflection of what's happening in the energy, because I talk a lot about my like clairvoyance and the visions that I get and how I see things, but at the same time, a lot of those can be accompanied with like different, I've mentioned this, but like taps on my shoulder from spirit guides, or like flutters in the diaphragm, which can be around about the solar plexus, clearing or recalibrating. And I know for a fact that these are collective sensations and experiences that people will start to have. And so to make sense of them is important. So I'll be talking a little bit more about that. But it is, and that came to my mind because of discipline and confidence with the solar plexus. So to have something prepared, and I'm actually seeing this as some type of manifestation or necessary step within us that has come from us trying to do things differently. So it's part of the new chapter. It's something that we've been kind of working on within ourselves. It doesn't have to be like, I'm ready to, I don't know, sign the contract, whatever. It doesn't have to be a real physical thing. It could be something that is internal, where it's like there's a readiness that wasn't there before around something, but now there's a little bit of a misalignment. I see these as box cars or like tractor trailers, like leaving the station in different directions. I talked about the subway too. So patience, also kind of tower energy. And I'm seeing the bear on the road being dismembered again, like dismemberment. There's something that's disjointed within this energy, and choose wisely. It's saying, don't be discerning and mature enough now in your expression of yourself and internal to external state around like, what is it that you truly want? What is it that the moment and the situation is truly asking of you? Not what you thought you would do, but what is it truly asking of you? And therefore, it's not a rejection. It's not a no. It's not a kibosh. It's a not now. Through that energy, that's what I'm getting. This card's also 16. This one's 3. That adds up to 19, which reduces down to 10. So there's some type of like completion, but I was thinking, and then, am I right about that? Because sometimes I add up the numbers and I'm like, it equals 4, and it clearly didn't. I would imagine the viewer's like, okay, girl, you just couldn't be more wrong about that. Yes, it does equal 10. I'm validating that, right? Yeah, 19, 10. So to add in the 7, we get a 17, which reduces down to 8. So this full moon really is kind of the closeout of 10 being endings, the closeout of the Lionsgate season. We are going to start a new cycle now. So you can imagine that I'm actually talking the way that I was at the time of the solstice. The summer of changes, as I refer to it, is it's done well for us. I hope it's done well for you individually, but I'm just saying that's the 888. So I have another 8 within that. It's an 8-year cycle. Like, think about the summer of 2015. Think about some of the things that you were going through at that time, and think about how you can apply your today wisdom, your today logic, your today lens to how you acted at that time. Because a lot of the things that we're closing out right now have to do with truly embodying a different version of ourselves than we were then. And what's weird is I looked at the clock and it said 20 minutes and 15 seconds. I know I had to take a phone call, so I had to start the video over. So your timestamp may not say that, but mine did. 2015. That's right around the time that I went to Hawaii. I know I said 2014, but to be honest, sometimes I just say like 10 years ago, even though it could have been 6, it could have been 12, you know. For me, that also has to do with integrating. So I talk about missing time from weird experiences that, you know, sleep paralysis or aliens or whatever it is. I'm going to begin a hypnotherapy regression journey around that. But then there are parts of my self or my life where I have a lot of missing memories because I'm not very proud of how I acted. And that's a different thing. It doesn't take, I mean, you could use a hypnotherapist and a professional to help you regress through that. But I don't require one. I simply just have to go to those places. We shy away from the things that we're ashamed of. So the integration for me around that time has to do with going in, again, with the treasure chunks and the memories. Maybe that one's in the back. Maybe it's a little dusty, you know, because my conscious mind, my ego, it doesn't like to go there. It doesn't really care to look at that. But that's why it's unintegrated. So I've been doing that work. And I believe that there's a lot to be gained from looking at the past 8 years and understanding what still may be lingering, what's affected us ever since then from that time that we never really dealt with. That's going to come into play with this disruption and heartache and loss energy. And it really does call upon the need to choose wisely. Let's get into these. By the way, the most dominant energy that was acting upon us from the other day's reading was the Emperor. So I'm going to start, I just wanted to remind of that. And I want to get the same thing. What's the most powerful dominant energy acting upon us at this time? I'll let you watch. Another thing I meant to say is that because this full moon is in Pisces, I had that dream. I remembered several dreams from my dream last night. I had some strange dreams. I'm not going to share them. They're personal. They pertain to my personal affairs, but here we are. That took a long time to come out. So this is going to be requiring clarification because it wasn't one of those cards that's just like, here I am. I'm the predominant energy. You asked me to come out and I did. No, it kind of had to take some working out of the deck in order for it to emerge. But if you have dreams, pay attention to them. Pay attention to them. If they are horrifying and nightmarish, there is something purging out. The subconscious is trying to release, and it's also trying to call your attention into these areas of discomfort. 23 when I look up, 5, 10, closing out of the chapters. So the more disturbing and the more frightening and the more anxiety inducing your dreams are, the more you need to be open to the release or the purging out of certain things that are kind of coming to the surface. And by that, I mean, just I don't know, write them down, process them. I used to do this. Oh gosh, I could share passages, not actually share passages from my dream journal, but just to show you how I did it. Cause I had one column and another column, I would write the dream. And then in the other column, I would highlight certain terms and things and people's names, and I would draw over correlation to the right hand side, and I would write all my associations or affiliations with that symbol. So with dream analysis, you always have to take into account that you have personal associations neurologically and psychologically with certain things that are not collective. There are collective and archetypal things that can be gleaned from how symbols appear in dreams. But there's also personal connection, and then there's residual day matter, which is not encoded with symbolism. It is simply the building blocks that the brain had to put the dream together because of what you saw during the day. But I would break it down using that knowledge to process the dream. Now that's a little involved, but I'm just even saying like me trying to think about that bear dream and stuff. And there's other kinds of dreams that are going to be less, if your dreams are glorious, if your dreams are interesting, if your dreams are, I don't know, sexual, if your dreams are like, if they're not negative, not to imply that sexual is always good, but you know what I mean? Like, if they're not negative, then you could take the dream experience at this time of the full moon in Pisces. I'm talking about this because I'm assuming that people are remembering their dreams more than usual. There's a high likelihood to be able to right now. You could take that as a map from your subconscious to be like, here now is what we are going to kind of be processing moving into. It's kind of like the stuff that's not demanding your attention because it wants to be purged out and released, but it's the stuff that's starting to come up as a reaction to it's reflecting your mind. So if it's troubled, that will show. If it's not troubled, it's showing what is kind of taking shape from the subconscious as a result of what you've been doing. So it's equally important to pay attention to in both scenarios, but there is a different way to go about detangling. So I drew the card, I never looked at it. Aha! Two of Swords. That's the biggest energy affecting us right now. Stalemate energy, an inability to decide, but not necessarily a powerlessness around that. It's actually, I'm seeing it as a wisdom, and I'm seeing it as what I talked about before with like wanting to kind of make a move, but needing to temper. And I said, how can we be mature in our expressions of ourselves by choosing wisely, making a decision to maybe not make a decision for the time being. And in my video from the other day, I said, I was giving advice to friends who were asking me for advice about like, well, what do I do? And I was saying, just wait. I don't think it's the right time, right? Even though there's this funny thing rising up inside us potentially where it's like, well, I feel like I've prepared to have to make a decision. And I'm speaking loosely on purpose. You have to be able to interpret this, and if it resonates with you, to, you know, what you're going through specifically, but make a decision, whatever that means, for you. And the lack of connection between the moment we thought we would have to seize to make the decision, the train left the station. But listen, there's always another boat. There's always another boat coming to the end of the dock. Sometimes we think we have to rush to get to the end of the dock because the boat is coming and we're gonna have to get on the boat and then the boat's gonna leave. Whenever you get to the dock, the boat will be coming. If you see the boat leaving, there's another one coming and you might have to wait for a second. So that's what we're doing. Makes me think of being a kid because I grew up on Lake Champlain in Vermont. So New York is right there, and you can take the state of New York, the Adirondacks, not the, you know, obviously it's far away from the city, but there'd be 30-minute ferry rides across to New York State, and we were constantly doing that as a family because we were a hiking family. I've spent so much time hiking in the Adirondacks and doing camping trips and stuff from a pretty young age, and we'd always have to leave because we'd have to make the ferry, and if we missed the ferry, you could see the ferry. It was always kind of tragic and sad to like sit in the car and pull up and see the ferry leaving because it means another 30 minutes, you know, there's two on a rotating basis, just having to wait for the next ferry to come. But that's where we're at. So what's the hidden energy? That came out in an interesting way. I have the Queen of Pentacles and I have Judgment. So I want to clarify for that because what I'm getting is that hidden energy, don't even, it's like a test. That's what I heard, but I don't like to say that because it implies that something's messing with you, right? Or like trying to see if you'll pass. That's not it. That's not it. The universe doesn't do that, but that's how our human minds would maybe translate it. Because that makes sense to us. We're like, oh yeah, I know what it's like to be tested. I know what you're talking about. Like, we may see it as a test. The hidden energy is that there's a lot of things falling into place. I'm seeing like a wooden game that a child would play where it's got these different slots and you like drop a penny or a ball into the top and you don't know where it's going to settle. There's a lot of divine ordinance out for judgment. Like judgment's being called on us, on ourselves, on our past. We are judging past versions of ourselves to be able to integrate them. And when I say judging, I mean like it is, excuse me. The reason why you're doing it, the reason why I'm saying the word judgment is because, you know, we don't really have the ability to judge each other. It happens naturally all the time. I've talked about feeling potentially misunderstood or underestimated because I can tell how people judge me because I'm an energy reader. So it becomes very apparent to me when I meet somebody how they've assessed me and if it's inaccurate. I mean, not entirely. I'm not an absolute telepathic mind reader at all times. And I actually am going to start talking about telepathy a little bit in addition to the other stuff. So that's on to the next video, but I have some things to say about it. And I more so mean that like only God can judge us, right? And that's what it's like, you live your life. I never seek out my own revenge because I know that that's not my job. God will take care of it. Like I'm not that, and that helps me not be a vengeful person and forgive and move on. And this ties into vengeful, like a lot of people's motivation in life has to do with proving something wrong, proving somebody wrong. And it just doesn't need to be that way. It makes me think of the How I Met Your Mother episode where Ted Mosby goes back to Wesleyan to show his professor that he actually did become an architect. And the professor's like, I literally don't know who you are. So at that point, it's like, well, who are you doing it for? Oh yeah, and Barney Stinson from this, not the same episode, but the same show, his character, he's like a sex addict and has super womanizer, misogynistic character, and his grade school bully said he had slept with 100 women, so Barney Stinson as an adult seeks out to sleep with 200, and when he does it, he calls the guy, and the guy's like, you need help. Judgment in the Queen of Pentacles and the Hidden Energy. Wait, pause. I need to finish what I was talking about with judging ourselves. So it would more so because ideally, if you've been listening along with the messages I've been doing and some of the stuff I've been talking about, it is the eye of love. You sit in the eye of love and you use the lens of love to examine the past, particularly this cycle, 7-8 years. It may not be comfortable. There might be things that we're realizing, feeling into, that aren't the most comfortable, that lead us to think that we are not equipped to move forward right now. But the reason why that's happening is because the ball, it's rolling down into the place where it's meant to land for more stability and abundance and groundedness within ourselves. It's almost like it couldn't make it to the bottom before. The penny or the ball, right? It's going all the way to the bottom, which is giving me groundedness. It's not sinking all the way down. No, it's fully going through the process of being lodged into the slot that it's meant to go in. And it's this weird thing to say, but it's the outcome that is up to the divine, which is part of the cosmic web, which is a collective manifestation, which brings it back to the self. So you could call it judgment, but through the eyes of love, it's simply an acceptance, which goes back to integration, because you're able to free yourself from certain things in the past that have continued to motivate your behavior from a subconscious level for 8 years. And the video that I'm going to do next to follow up this full moon reading is going to talk more on that. So that's the hidden energy, Queen of Pentacles and the Judgment. What's the biggest obstacle right now? I think it's patience and having to trust, and it flipped pretty quickly. The biggest obstacle is the Ten of Swords. I mean, we've got heartache and loss right here, Ten of Swords. Clarify that biggest obstacle. Ooh, it's the Empress. Clarify that. Ten of Swords and the Empress is the biggest obstacle. The Nine of Swords. It has everything to do with believing that we're worthy of good things based on everything that's happened in our lives. It has everything to do with having been experienced. What did I just say? Having been exposed to this energy, and this energy, I see it as a glow. Like, I talk a lot about the tactile quality of energy being like iridescent and like shimmery and stuff, because I can see that. Also, yesterday was one of those days, I talked about this when I was by the lake last weekend, I think it was, talking about how some days are just like technicolor, where not every day do I go outside and see like energy meridians floating or like colors and shapes around people's heads. That's not my norm. But like with anything, there's different swells to different experience. And some days it's just one ability to see something around someone, or I can always get into that state if I were to stare at somebody long enough. But I don't need to see all of that all the time. There's no need for that. A lot of the times too, I don't even know what it really means, right? I'll just see something unless I go into it. Yesterday was one of those days where I was seeing a lot of stuff. And I mean, like just sitting, fixing, like seeing energy. I don't want to go into it because it's complicated, but yesterday was one of those days, and the night before, so all of this very potent, activated full moon energy, hang on, let me think. I'll post this video. I was filming, I was reflecting about dog food and marketing, and I was getting a little bit upset about how people just identify the niches in, the voids in certain markets, and they just continue to feed the machine. And it was not really a productive rant for the purposes of this channel, but I was talking about it. So I was filming my floor, and the camera was kind of blurry, and you could see in the camera these, like, if you stared hard enough, I mean, one could always argue, there's always a way to talk yourself out of it, but I was fixating on the video after I recorded it because I was trying to listen for if there was anything that was postable, but I didn't think that there was. I could almost see like these shimmers. It was like this blurred out filming of the hardwood floor had created this ability to like see my aura. Or the cover image that I used for the most recent video before this one that I posted was from a friend, and she's looking at the ocean and she's like, it's you, because the colors, this kind of light blue, pastel, light pink, light purple, mauve, kind of peachy orange, like the beachy sunset colors that kind of form their own rainbow in an iridescent way. That's my aura. And I was seeing it in this video, and I was like, that's kind of trippy, because when I talk about seeing in the world, it's clairvoyance. It's not like it is with my physical eyes, but it's third eye. And if you haven't had that experience of differentiating between those two, then it's a little bit hard to think about. But in the video, I could really see it. So why am I talking about this? I'm talking about it because I think about Empress energy as far as like a glow, a feeling, colors. I talked about this with the vision boarding too. That's the energy that I strive to put myself into. So the reason why I would make a vision board is because the combination, one image of a kitchen sink does not make my heart sing. One image of Sandra Oh from Grey's Anatomy, love her, amazing actress, wearing a wig does not make my heart sing. I mean, it kind of does. No, I just mean it is the combination of these things that I intentionally find, put together. That's a creative activity. Curating and culminating, things that make your heart sing. And for me to look at it puts me into Empress energy. I don't have any of that, but I'm tricking myself because your brain does not actually know the difference between emotion that's brought on because you're kind of hypnotizing yourself into it, or emotion, that's brought on because of an experience. So the more and more that I put myself into this energy, the more and more it kind of just drips into everything that I'm doing in my life. And so I talked about this video of the dog food and whatever, and I was filming my cat. And I think that I'm going to post just the part about me talking about my cat because, number one, she's beautiful. She's kind of my spirit animal protectress in the 5D. She's a big transmuter. I highly recommend having a cat for energy reasons, for energy hygiene purposes in your home. They're very good. They're very good for protecting. And her being my spirit animal, I described her as like this blonde leopard kind of when she stretches out. And I like that because I remember being a child having this like hot pink, like leopard print. Think of like Lisa Frank and like early 2000s, 90s aesthetics. It's why I love glitter, right? It's an homage to the inner child, the whole thing. And that is also how I get into envisioning the Empress energy of like, that is where things can come in easily. Getting into that energy creates this little opening in the time space quilt where like I'm able to tether in manifestations that have not appeared yet through idea. It's like the creating of a channel or a pipeline for things to be delivered to you. And this like hot pink visual, but it also creates a sensation, but I can also kind of see it sparkly. There's some need. The reason why I'm saying all this is because we have the ability I heard a strange noise. We have the ability to see that. Maybe you didn't before. Maybe you always have, but it's been like a back burner thing. Like, I don't even know what I'm talking about, you know? Because this is a collective energy. It is a collective reading, so take it how it resonates. What I'm trying to say is that there's this aversion to that still has to do with worthiness, and like, it's as if the pain needs our attention, and perhaps it does for the sake of integration. But I'm asking about the biggest hurdle, and this is loss and endings, 10. I've already said the number 10 throughout the reading prior to this card coming out, and I've talked about the closeout. This is about anxiety and regret and kind of being haunted by things. So as we are really closing out this cycle, I mean, the hurdle is giving this up for this. And a person from the outside would be like, well, it's a no-brainer. Give up the anxiety and the hurt and the loss and the grief and welcome in, abundance and Empress energy. It's actually harder to do because we're programmed through adrenaline and cortisol and all this stuff to be addicted to the stress. It's completely harder to just be like, everything's okay. I'm peaceful. I can glow in a sparkly energy of love. I deserve it. I know how to manage it. I can offer it to others. I'm not threatened. It's much harder to do that because of like conditioning, really, and our inability to see ourselves in our own lives from the outside. And by that I mean the way that angels, ancestors, God, and Jesus and the universe see you, which is through the eyes of love and forgiveness. So don't be afraid of the goodness. I just spent 20 minutes talking about stuff just to be able to say, don't be afraid of the goodness. Don't be afraid of the goodness. Clarify, don't be afraid of the goodness. Too many, but we'll do it. Don't be afraid of the goodness. I'm gonna leave the Empress up because it's good energy to have. I'm gonna take this stuff down. I'm gonna leave Choose Wisely up because we got the Two of Pentacles. A choice, free will. Don't forget. Don't slip into that state of being like, I wasn't in control, so this happened and that happened. Me being stuck in traffic, slowly losing my mind, watching people's vanity plates drift on by. Another weird thing that happened, I've shared this before, but I'm nicotine addiction. It's not great. I'm trying to change. Don't judge me. Only God can judge me. But I can still want to make improvements in my life. I'm not a perfect person, okay? Anyway, I was smoking a cigarette. For some reason, weirdest thing in the world, I ended up like, I don't know if I was stretching. Keep in mind, I was in the car for 2 hours, so you go a little crazy. I was stretching or something. I ended up like accidentally stabbing my cigarette into the ceiling, and ash and like sparks, like pain, raining down onto my forehead and into my hair. And I was wearing like a suede thing, a light colored, like that was bad too. Just little glitches yesterday that kind of threatened to take me out of my stasis and my calm and my truth. Triggers. It's always a choice. Now, I reacted as anybody would. I don't know how that went. I can't remember. but it was painful. So I reacted. I tried to clean myself up and fix the moment. But I'm using that as an example because those are the types of things where we don't really see where the day took a turn, but those types of things add up. And it's not like I'm going to go from that experience to like yelling at a child. But if somebody is experiencing lots of inconveniences or things that are emotionally or physically uncomfortable, even if they're little things and they add up, they do tend to take you out of the truth unless you immediately, right after they happen, go back to the truth. Because then you're not becoming progressively untethered. You're just like, nope, you can't bring me down. It is what it is. Okay, so I asked about this clarifier. Look, the Emperor and the Empress are together. Strength is here. This is out of all the readings that I've ever done on the channel, this is the most beautiful thing that I've ever pulled. Because the lion is the ego. It's the human ego, but it's kind of represented in the tarot, the story of the tarot, as the emperor's ego. This is the Empress. She's just taken her shirt off or whatever. And she's with that ego. She's tamed it, right? It's not an expression of force, strength. It's an expression of being able to know how to choose, knowing when to hold back, right? We're employing that strength right now. There is discomfort and anxiety around it, but this is harmony. This is harmony within the self, and so that we can have that with others. Like, I don't even have anything to say about it. I know I'm like, it's the biggest deal ever. I don't have to speak on it. It's self-explanatory. This is a set. They're meant to go together, and they came out together. But what else came out with it was the Three of Swords. So again, it's showing us, I love it because, I love it. It's a full spread that includes the most painful cards in the deck, right? And we got her too. But the most abundant and luxurious cards in the deck, in the right combination. You can't ask for anything more, but I guess the purpose of this reading is to acknowledge, going back to Judgment, with the Queen of Pentacles being the hidden energy. All of this has to do with the pain or discomfort of acclimating to a new version of yourself that's not based on trauma responses. That could be a way to put it. So I want to bridge the gap here. We've got two sets of things. We've got the need for faith and being able to kind of come back to 0 point before the cart gets away from the wagon. Cart gets ahead of the wagon. I guess that's an expression. I don't tend to use that expression, and I don't know if it means what I'm using it to mean right now, but what I'm saying is that you do return after every trigger, no matter how big or how small. Notice when you're inconvenienced. It's not like, oh, well, I have to stay in the good vibe. It doesn't matter. That's still a resistance, right? Do you see? It's in the name of returning to stasis, but it's still a denial or a refusal. So it's funny because we start to see that the labels that our mind actually, they're not energetically congruent with what we're saying they're doing. This reading is kind of high level in that I feel like I'm actually saying a lot more than the words are meaning. So you're going to have to read between the lines to pick up on the energy that I'm bringing through here. So I just felt the need to say that. Because it's too much to put into words. That's why. Even for me. Yeah, so to be a little bit inconvenienced is okay, and it is very, very, very probable right now, and it could be a big inconvenience. It doesn't even have to be these small things. Ideally they get smaller and smaller or more and more manageable. Never to be fully eliminated because life is life. But I'd like to bridge the gap. As long as you can, and when I said don't let the cart get too far away, is because when that moment comes where you realize that you haven't been kind of in tune with yourself, throughout a day or a week or a month or a decade, and it's like, where's my cart? I'm a wagon. Like it got so far away. Like you don't want to have to put yourself into that situation. In fact, if you become aware of the way that you feel when certain things happen, then you won't get yourself in that situation. How do we bridge the gap right now? Show me some cards around. All right. 4 came out in a big chunk and I don't like it, but we'll take it. They're speaking. The cards are speaking. It's just a lot to link together. I don't like getting 4 all at once. All right, for bridging the gap. Nope, it's 5. It's 5 cards. I haven't looked at them yet. Ace of Wands. Wheel of Fortune. 8 of Wands. 2 of Wands. And 7 of Pentacles. All right, I mean, it makes perfect sense, and I will tell you why. 7 of Pentacles is about dedication and hard work. We've got the Ace of Wands and the 2 of Wands and the 8 of Wands and the Wheel of Fortune. So the bridging of the gap, and please see the themes here. The themes is that all of the goodness that is part of this closeout, so this is what's replacing the stuff that we've been hanging on to. And it's nobody's fault. This is the reason why this is a collective energy is because it just happened, right? We're all of certain placements in astrology. The gears are always turning. It affects lives in different ways. This is why this is so cool, because like whether or not you follow it, like I can guarantee that I could pick someone off the street and ask them about, I could interview them for 3.5 hours and make a timeline of how their life has been from 2015 until now. And I could perfectly translate that into how I've been doing the collective energy readings. That's why I like it. And I say that just to mean like, it's not that you did anything wrong. It's not that you did anything wrong. Had that not all happened, you wouldn't have had to unwind it. And we're able to accomplish this because we've done the unwinding. It's trial by fire. It's karmic clearance. It's Akashic integration, and it's rites of passage. And I want to be really, 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 really careful making a distinction around the fact that I don't think like, well, it was meant to happen, like a bad thing. It's because you deserved it. You had to go through that. I don't like that verbiage. But if something happened, then it did happen and it helped you grow. So the theme that I wanted to highlight, swords, 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 swords. These are all wands. So the closeout, swords are of the mind. They represent air signs, masculine energy, thinking, logic, how the inner dialogue translates into the outer world or the actions, because the sword has the power to carve and shape the world, to slice things apart. So your mind shapes your reality, is what swords remind us. And the closeouts have to do with the fact that there's been a lot of unrealized pain that's being acknowledged. But I said, how do we bridge the gap? It's the transmutation. You change states, you change suits, you change tax. I'm seeing sailing again. You go from, there's something that a sailor says when you're ready to change tax. They say ready about and then hard to the lee. And it's like it's a language. Like if you're in a busy restaurant and you're a waitress, you guys develop behind so that you don't bump into each other. Sailing's the same. There's little things where you talk about. So it's like our spirit guides are chirping out those things saying, ready about, like you alert the crew that we're about to do a maneuver. We're going from swords and mental anguish, heartache and loss, stagnation. And keep in mind, I'm not saying like, you missed the boat. You forgot to do it. I'm just letting you know, this is what we are doing. You don't have to try to do it. This is collective energy. This is what is taking place. It'll happen whether or not you wanted to because of, look, the Wheel of Fortune. So the universe is taking us through this change of states. I wouldn't want somebody to listen to this reading and be like, okay, so now I got to move from swords to wands. Don't worry about it. Like, it's going to be happening and you'll be able to witness it within yourself taking place. I know that because of this, but because this is destiny. I'm so happy for all of you. I'm so happy for myself. I'm so happy that collectively we're at this point. It's incredibly relieving. So the outlier, our little pal here, Seven of Wands is letting us know that in order to bridge the gap, it is going to take dedication. The character depicted in that card has an exhaustion. He's got his backhoe across his shoulders, and I'm getting the need to stretch when I do that. He's taking a break from putting in the labor in a physical way, so that the little activities of the day-to-day, day in, day out, it's okay to take little breaks. You have to pace yourself. You have to pace yourself in order to get to where you're going. So a little bit more each and every day, and some of the work, this is a Pentacles card, so it's about the physical reality, but what I'm hearing is that some of the work is going to be in that place of like, every single thing that goes wrong, allow it to be, understand why you feel inconvenienced, and then be like, okay, so then what now? I can still lead with love in every moment, even though whatever happened. That's what she would do. That's what he would do. That's what they do together. Oh, that's super beautiful. That's super beautiful. So the shift into the Wands is about idea and movement and passion, swiftness. I just simply can't dethrone them. I can't take that off of the display because I don't want to. It's what I want to have on the screen. But again, I'd like to highlight just quickly, Ace, 2, 1, 2. We're ascending, we're moving through these phases. I said, don't take it to mean you have to start like, the conscious effort is staying in the present moment and showing up to do your work every single day, whatever that means for you. Maybe your work that day is showing up to a big nap. Maybe your work is showing up to some time of self-care. Maybe your work is showing up to do a project that requires a lot of effort. Doing the work doesn't mean exerting. It means doing the work to be mindful enough to know that there's different seasons of life, different seasons of every day. And I'm seeing a little bit of tension here. So the Seven of Pentacles is slow, disciplined, almost think Knight of Pentacles, like moving forward in a calculated, steady manner. But the Eight of Wands wants to move more quickly than that. And we can temper that by reminding ourselves that there's order here. There's a process. We're not meant to have it all figured out. So the urge to move quickly, the need to temper. Give me a card on that. And don't you forget the Wheel of Fortune was with those cards. Okay, top and bottom is what I'm getting. So I'm going to take from the top and the bottom, and what these cards are going to clarify is around, it completely left my mind, but you know what I was just talking about. We're looking at Eight of Wands, Wheel of Fortune, and kind of that tension between the Seven of Pentacles and the Eight of Wands. I think when you're in an expansive state and you can hold a lot of energy, you feel and you see that they're not actually in, they're not actually in tension with one another, because you know that both can be true at the same time, because you have an expanded ability to see multiple things at once now, so that you do show up each and every moment, staying in the moment. That's all the work you'll ever need to do. If you've cleared out that big pile of swords, and the heartache and the loss and the grief, that's the integration. But you can still feel, because these are moving through the air. This is of the earth. It's the tangible, it's the physical. This is the idea moving through the air. So the tension can be felt from the ideas coming quickly. You feel like, and for me, this manifests all the time as me being like, I don't have a journal. I don't have a notepad. I can't write that down. I don't have the time to make the painting. How am I going to film an extra video today? I'm sure you can kind of tell from the way I speak and how like ADD I am and all this stuff. But if I could, when I'm alone in my own mind, it can move very, very quickly because I don't have to translate it to anybody else or do anything about it. It's got its own pace to it, but it's incredibly quick. And it's overwhelming for me sometimes because I'm like, I am but a man with a hoe. I can't believe I just said that. I can only do so much in any given day, and that's how it is. But there's a discomfort within that is sort of just facts of life and eternal when you are a person who is kite and anchor. You are both connected and you're grounded. How I've talked myself through all of that is being like, Wheel of Fortune will decide what ideas get actualized and what ones won't. I am just but a man with a hoe, tilling the land or whatever, tending to my seeds, and the ideas will keep flying by. The ones that end up coming through when they're meant to, that's all divinely led. You have to just kiss the ones bye-bye. Like, let it flow, let it go, let it be easier than you're making it, because you don't want to force anything and feel, if I feel like I'm missing out on the ideas that come through, it's a non-detachment thing. Then I'm just putting myself into this feeling of missing out. That's actually a choice that I made. Maybe I didn't realize it because I felt, and I was plagued by this for years. I never, and it put me into all sorts of really challenging creative paralysis around feeling like my gifts and my abilities weren't up to snuff enough to do the mental, to meet. Like, I couldn't do my mind justice based on how I was showing up in the 3D world. And that was really challenging for me. Like, I felt like I was constantly a failure because I had a lot inside and I couldn't get it out. It doesn't mean you're a failure at all. And that's a self-imposed prison that I had to sit in for a little while to understand what that really was. But I'm saying it feels like this tension, but it's actually a teacher to help you hold both. I truly hope that made sense, that whole thing. My tummy's being really grumbly. I'm so sorry. I wanted top and bottom. Beautiful. Beautiful. I was sitting in traffic yesterday and somebody had a construction vehicle moving alongside me, and the company name was Deep Well. And this card immediately popped into my mind and I was like, ooh, the well got deeper. That's what I heard. Which means our ability to dig down into the creative depths of like pulling up new things to the surface, and that could deal with subconscious stuff coming up for integration. Because sometimes when you retrieve and go into the shadows or the things that we don't want to think about, you accidentally kind of bring up positive too. Because like I talked about with my memory trunks in my mind, like treasure chests, I go back to think about something I haven't wanted to think about for a while, which is this sketchy, frightening, weird, like time. My Hawaii story about having sleep paralysis and like the buzzing and the whatever. But I also remembered that really nice bonfire. Haven't thought about either in a while, but I'm just saying, as you continue to expand for a brief period of time, trial by fire, perhaps the pain will intensify, but the beauty does too, because simply you are understanding that the world's bigger than you thought. Duality is still at play. High highs, low lows, but that's why you have to be able to see it for what it is and remain in this, I truly hope that my tummy rumbling isn't being picked up on the audio, but if it is, just know that I will go eat, and I'm sorry if it's disruptive. So I asked for something around that, that tension and clarifying. I got top and bottom. It is the wellspring of creation. And that message from my traffic jam yesterday, the well's getting deeper. It goes deeper than we could have ever thought. That's also what I heard. Stability, 4 of Wands. We love it. Guess what? They live here. They live in this castle. The victory continues. Okay. Throughout this transit, what is incoming energy that we can be expecting right now? I have to end the reading soon because my guides just told me you're asking for too much. Guess what? It's just a continuation. This is the 3 of Wands. So I had Ace of Wands, 2 of Wands, 3 of Wands, 4 of Wands. Incoming energy is that it's going to keep going, the process right now. So have a lot of faith. Literally, have a lot of blind faith. 1, 2, 3, 4. All good. That's what we want. That's the incoming energy. The next logical step will become clear when you're able to see it. I mean, I'm going to say it again. I know I've been a lot redundant in this reading, but very rarely do I have such a desperate, painful combination of cards and such a luxurious, abundant, stable combination of cards. So big deals right now. I told you it would be. I told you this moon would be a big deal. I see it as, I mean, right? Going from the swords to the wands. There's just divine timing at play. We had Judgment. We had Wheel of Fortune. I'm going to cut the deck just because I can't not, because I'm so nosy and I don't know how to tie this off. So let's see what they give me. Actually, I went to cut the deck. I picked it up and then one card remained on the table.